Psychology is always associated with a deep analysis of certain phenomena, as well as the reasons why these phenomena arise. Let us understand how and when low self-esteem is formed. The influence of parents. This is the most important factor affecting the formation of low self-esteem of a person is late in childhood. After all, it is then that the child's basic character traits are manifested, including the formation of the perception of himself. Low self-esteem in a child occurs when parents do not pay enough attention to their child, do not show affection and care, constantly criticize or excessively demanding to him. Especially worth highlighting are comparative characteristics. When the baby is compared with other children, making him comments, it has an extremely negative impact on his psyche in general and self-esteem in particular. Growing up, he becomes withdrawn, constrained in communication, insecure in himself and in his strength. Of course, this is a description of extreme manifestations. However, people with low self-esteem often know how to cleverly hide it. Sometimes behind the seemingly swaggering behavior lurks an inner stiffness and fear that your failure will become known to all. In fact, this is a very serious issue of psychology, as it has long been known that all our problems come from childhood. Peer influence is also of immense importance. If a child has some shortcomings or merits, but peers perceive it as shortcomings, then from the outside there are ridicule, criticism, negative words. All this is deposited in the child's head, forming his self-image. When he grows up, there is a great risk that he will not be able to accept himself as he is. Most likely, he will become insecure in his abilities, will consider himself inferior and so on. It should be added here that it is not uncommon for peer influence to be less decisive than parental influence. Perhaps you yourself can remember among your acquaintances or classmates guys who at school were beaten and defective, and maybe even outcasts. However, they grew up and became unexpectedly sociable and successful people with many friends. But this is still, after all, rather the exception. Parents, whose children get from peers, should take it extremely seriously to help the child to perceive it correctly. Otherwise, a teenager who is not accepted by his comrades will not be able to figure out on his own how to increase self-esteem, which will largely determine his future life. Low self-esteem can arise in adulthood. A lot depends on the immediate environment. If suddenly a person began to notice that his self-esteem is falling sharply, it is necessary to carefully review his friends and acquaintances with whom he most often spends time. Perhaps in his company there are people who are passive in life, constantly complaining about everyone, and they are not satisfied with everything. Or vice versa, they may be bossy and sharp-tongued individuals who suppress and humiliate others. Communicating with this type of people, you can unwittingly fall under their bad influence in the most negative way. There are people who may be good acquaintances or friends, but lower your self-esteem with all sorts of jokes, teasing, and other things. They are trying in every possible way to dissuade you from any promising endeavors. After communicating with such comrades, feel sullen and depressed, without any desire to act or change your life for the better. The need to socialize with this type of person should be seriously reconsidered.